Yeah, we'll get started. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for joining us. My name is Billy Ledoux. I am the program manager for the State Tribal Economic Development Commission at the Montana Department of Commerce.
Thanks, Billy. Maria, if you're on, if you'd like to do an introduction, or if you're okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Just want to say hi to Melissa and the rest of you that are online joining us. I'm the Bureau Chief for the Office of Indian Country Economic Development. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. But I might go around the room then, if that's okay. If anybody who's joined would like to do an introduction, I'll call on your name just as it appears on my screen, starting with Kelly English. If you're on, you can do a quick intro, who you are, your business, or where you're from. Just kind of keep it simple like that, please, before it gets too crowded today. Go ahead, Kelly. We can't hear you if you're talking. Okay. Sorry, Kelly, we can't hear you if you're doing your introduction. Oh, there you go. Yes.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Kelly English. I'm the Director of Business Services for the Montana Secretary of State's office.
Thank you. I'll go with Misty Denny next.
Hello, everybody. I'm Misty Denny with, I'm from Box Elder, Montana, and I own my Paisley Pals.
Great. Thanks for joining us. Mark Sansever, quick intro, please.
Yeah, hi, Mark from Great Northern Development. I work with the Indian Equity Fund and NABA.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. I'll skip to Roberta Bird.
Hello, my name is Roberta. I am from Plenty Doors out in Crow Agency, and I am the Services Development Community Coordinator.
Great. Thanks, Roberta. I think you're traveling today. You're one of my NABAs with Plenty Doors. Thank you for your intro. And I'll go with Roxy next, just to keep it going. If you're there, Roxy, just do a quick introduction, your name, your business, and then we can get started. Alrighty, Roxy's probably busy serving coffee right now in her kiosk and her location in Ashland there, but I'll just skip that really quick. I'm Luke Robinson, Entrepreneur Development Specialist, and I work with Billy and Maria here. And yeah, today I'd like to welcome our guest, Melissa. We have had some inquiries on how to register your business and get the filings and all that kind of stuff taken care of. And if, entrepreneurs say, if I would have known about this, I would have got started earlier, etc. So just a general overview. I'm not going to take anything away from her, so I'll just let her go ahead and do her intro, and just we'll be recording this for replay, for access and everything. So thank you.
Thank you, Luke. And my name, of course, is Melissa Lutgen. I am the Business Services Supervisor. I supervise the call center staff here in the Business Services Division for the Montana Secretary of State's office. And I'm so happy that you set all of this up. This is sort of what we do all day long in terms of talking to customers about business registrations and filings that they need to do. So it's always a great opportunity for us to be able to give a little bit of education and then let you know that we're always there as a resource for you if you have questions about your registrations and what needs to happen next. So thank you so much for setting this up. Glad to see all of you. And now I did prepare a little PowerPoint so we can go through the slides on that just to keep myself on track more than anything. But we'll talk through those, and then I'll do a brief sort of walkthrough on the website just so that you can see the basics of the online filing portal if you're not familiar with it, just to become a little bit more familiar with it. And then we might have time for questions towards the end if there are additional questions. So let me get my screen share happening here. Okay, So again, I work for the Secretary of State's office, and we take care of the business registrations for every business across the state of Montana. And that includes all business entities that are domestic entities, meaning they form within the state of Montana and are subject to Montana laws and regulations, and foreign entities, foreign just meaning that it originates outside the state of Montana. So people who come from Colorado to do business here, they come from Idaho and they're doing business within the state of Montana. We're taking care of their registrations as well. We review the filing documents for statutory adherence to make sure that everything that's submitted to our office, whether that be initial filings, amendments, annual reports, all of those things, that they meet the statutory requirements for filing so that everybody's covered under the letter of the law. So one of the questions that we get a lot is why do I have to register my business? So first and foremost, the easy answer to that is it's required by Montana law. If you're doing business under a name that's something other than your legal given name, like Melissa Lutgen, then you have to register that business name with the Secretary of State's office. When you register, that does ensure that you're the only person in the state that's doing business under that name. That allows you to build your business and your brand without worrying that your competitor is going to come in down the road and snatch all that business away from you. So that's one of the great benefits of registering your business here, so that you have that name locked down. And it says if you're filing articles of organization or incorporation, those filed documents also can create entities separate from yourself. So that allows that entity to be defended if there's ever any legal action that should arise against it. So that is a main requirement that's in the statute, that if it's not registered, it's not defensible. So that's why we always want to make sure that business entities are registered here. So the other big question that we get a lot, and I know you wanted me to touch a little bit on this, is how should I register my business? We get that question a lot. It's about structure. We have a number of different filings. I think there are 40 or 45 initial different types of filings that you can submit, and then various forms that go along with that in terms of amendments and things like that. So unfortunately, none of us here are attorneys. We're also not accountants. So we can't say you should make your business a limited liability company, because there are tax ramifications and legal ramifications to whichever type of business entity you choose to register. So if you do call our office, that is the standard answer that you will get, is we can't tell you how to register. I can give you all the mechanics and answer the questions about the filings that you would want to complete, but you would always want to visit with an accountant or an attorney to make sure that the type of structure that you choose is going to meet your tax and legal situation, so that you make sure everything is covered. So I did put in here just some examples of business structures that we have with our office. One of the most common ones is assumed business names. You might hear those referred to as doing business as names, or a lot of people call them sole proprietorships. It's just a trade name or a fictitious business name that you're using in commerce. So my fake business that I use actually to go through customer scenarios is Melissa's Jams and Jellies, because my husband and I have this giant raspberry patch and we're always jamming every summer. So that's my fake business. That's what I run under an assumed business name. It's not a separate entity. It's just me doing business as this other name, having it registered so that I might be able to open up a business banking account or something along those lines. Limited liability company, that is where you're creating an entity separate from yourself. It's a type of business structure that offers liability protection. That's the main reason for setting it up, because people are sometimes concerned that if they have a business, something happens that would be unfortunate for legal reasons with that business, they want separation between business and personal assets. And there's also some flexibility in how your income is taxed. You can be taxed as a partnership, you can use it as a pass-through entity and just claim it on your personal taxes. You might have an S-Corp election where you actually file more like a corporation. So different functions there, different options for you if you have a limited liability company. And then corporations, that's the other main one that we register here. They have shareholders, they have directors, officers, and then they pay taxes on their profits, and the shareholders pay taxes on dividends. So I did include some links, and I'll send you this PowerPoint presentation so that if you wanted to access the Business Help Center that has more in-depth information about all of these different structures, then you can certainly do that. And I put some more links in here as we go along. You'll see those. Another big consideration sometimes is just cost when it comes to register. Assume business names, there's a $20 fee, and then they're good for 5 years at a time. We actually notify you 90 days prior to your expiration that if you're still using that business name, you can renew it. You pay the additional $20, and again, it goes on for another 5 years. Limited liability companies and corporations are slightly different than that. They have an initial $70 filing fee. And then every year, you file more or less what's a renewal of the registration called an annual report. Those are $20 each year, and they just keep that registration active. They let us know that you're still an active business in the state of Montana. And then there are partnerships. Partnerships follow along the same lines as the assumed business names. $20 fee, registrations are good for 5 years at a time. And there are different types of partnerships, limited liability partnerships and limited partnerships. So there's some additional information again in those business structures. And then I also put the fee sheet in here in case anybody has any questions about what might come after that. So these are the basic steps, the ones that when we have customers contact us, this is what I'm sending basically for the majority of the day this is how we register on the Montana Secretary of State online filing portal. So we'll get to that website in just a second here. So this is our online filing portal. You get to it right through the Montana Secretary of State website. So if you're here on the home page, you would just want to take a scroll down, and it's the business online filing portal, one of the very first things that we have on the site. In the online filing portal, you can search for business names. If you're curious about other businesses that are around you, you can search for business names. You can request information. You can request certificates for your own business, all without being signed in. We also have a function that we call search, click, pay, that if you have a business registration already set up, like say an assumed business name or an LLC, if you don't have any changes to make to your registration, you don't even have to sign into the online portal. You can just search for your business name, file whatever the document is, the renewal or the annual report, submit it with the fee, and it takes effect just as if you had signed in to fill in the document. So I wanted to go through the most basic or the most common registration that we get, which is the domestic limited liability company. There are tens of thousands of them that are registered every year. So let me get signed in, and I'll just sign in with my state ePass account. I guess I should show you, I don't know how many people are familiar with ePass. Eventually there's a migration to Okta that I understand will be coming. If you don't have an ePass account, anyone can create one. It's just a user profile that you set up for the site. So you would just click the create one here button, and it takes you through all of the information that would be required to set up your profile. I just changed my password today, so I'm sorry, that probably looked really clunky. It's one of those things that, you know, you have it for a few months and then you have to change it, and it takes your fingers a few minutes to remember what they're doing. So here we are signed into the business online filing portal. If we're doing an LLC registration or really any of the other business types of registrations, we would come into the forms section here on the left. Make sure you're in the business forms. There are a whole lot of different sections of forms that are going on in there. Choose the form you want to file and then click File Online, and that'll start the application. So I did want to point out a few kind of handy things that are in all of our applications to help people with their registrations. So in the kind of introductory text, there's the Montana code annotated, right? The legal backing for why we're filing these different things. So if you have any questions about where does this really come from, or why are they asking me for this information, this is where you would find it. You can click these links, go right to the MCA, and it will say, these are the pieces that are required for you. There's also a notice in here about the annual reports, because that was something that we had heard from our customers. A lot of them weren't really aware that they had to file annual reports to keep everything active. So we put it right here in the form, and again with a statutory reference. Each form has help text, and I'm trying to move my, there we go. Sorry about that. It has help menus. So in this case, it's what is an annual report? This is the information that we're giving for assistance here. And all of the forms are designed this way. And then every field that's required has a little red star next to it. You'll notice when you're navigating through the forms that if you skip a step, the pages of the form highlight in red to say, hey, there's something that was missed on this page. You'll need to go back and make an update. And again, we have more of this help information on the entity name page. Here's some considerations. When we're talking about business names, we have to follow an administrative rule that's set up that tells us what's distinguishable and what's not distinguishable in the registration. So this sidebar here has a little bit of a summary of what makes a business name distinguishable from another business name. So all of these components that we would be filling in here are what are required by statute for articles of organization. So the type of LLC that you're forming, the name of the LLC, the term, business mailing address, registered agent in Montana. That's a question that we get a lot. What is a registered agent? And the registered agent is the person who's going to be responsible for process service for the business, meaning if legal papers are ever served to your business because there's some sort of legal action involved, the registered agent is the person who accepts those process service papers and then gets them onto the business owner if they don't happen to be that person. A lot of business owners act as their own registered agents. They'll see themselves in the site as non-commercial agents, just means they're not in the business of being a registered agent for others. And then we also do have commercial registered agents. They are those registered agents for hire. They work for a lot of the foreign entities because the registered agents must be physically located in Montana. So if you're an Idaho business and you're coming to do business in Montana, you might not have a physical location in Montana to fulfill that requirement. So you would contract with a commercial registered agent to provide that service. Oops, and there's nothing on that page because I didn't make a selection there. So then we need to choose, how is our LLC going to be managed? Is it manager managed? Is it member managed? This is another one of those frequently asked questions. And it's one of those where we know what we see, but we really don't know what the tax benefits or the legal benefits are for having it set up one way or the other. So a manager managed LLC has appointed managers. The people that we see listed on the registration might be the business owners, or they might be someone else that was just appointed to manage the LLC for them. Versus when we see that it's a member managed LLC, we know that the names on the registration are always the owners of the LLC. And that means that the management of the LLC solely rests with the owners, not with anybody outside the organization who doesn't have some skin in the game, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. All of our forms do have a document section so that if you wanted to upload something with a document or something to go with your record, you could do that. We always just ask that you don't upload anything that would be considered sensitive information. Please don't send us your social security cards. Please don't send us your EINs. I've had credit cards, driver's licenses, all sorts of things that people upload, and we absolutely do not want any of that information. All of our records are public information, which means at any point in time, someone can come onto the website and request the information about your business to see who the owners are and what documents you filed. So if we do see the private information, we generally return those applications so that you can remove them. But it's just better not to upload anything like that. The end of the form is just the review, compiles all the prior pages for you. And then there's a sign and submit section. With this one, you have to check each of the declarations that's there. And then you put your name, type your name into the signature box. That's what's legally binding with us. So it doesn't require a DocuSign. It doesn't require a wet signature. You don't have to download and print anything off, but you do have to check all of those declaration boxes and then enter your name into the signature section. And then you would provide some daytime contact information in case we have a question about the application so that we can call you and find out if what we're confused about and how we can make it better. So one thing that I also wanted to mention, since this is for tribal entities, and you can probably educate me better than I can educate you about tribal entities. It's my understanding that the tribal entities, if they're just operating within the boundaries of the tribe, do not have to be registered with our office. But if they are then going into the state of Montana, so leaving the boundaries of the reservation, that they would need to be registered with our office. Those registrations are considered foreign registrations because, again, even though they are within the state of Montana, they originate outside the state of Montana. They're not necessarily subject to the rules, laws, regulations of Montana as a tribal business. So I've seen those designated two different ways, and I'm just opening an application for a foreign LLC. So so when we come onto this entity details page, I've seen tribal businesses registered in two different ways. The first one is that they select United States as the country. And then for the state, they actually select District of Columbia because it's federally recognized, I believe. So that's one method. The other way, of course, is underneath here, we do have a tribal option to designate it as a tribal business. So I just wanted to specifically point those out because of what the presentation is for, since we are talking about tribal businesses and entities, just to make sure that you are aware that, again, they would be registered as foreign entities if they're not meant to be domestic Montana, subject to the rules, laws, regulations of Montana. And there is a way to designate them as a tribal entity if they're registered with the tribe.
Perfect. Hey, Melissa,
Yes.
a quick question.
Sure.
Maria just filled out a question. Can a person register their business if they have a felony?
There are no checks and balances, I guess, on our side to say that yes, you can, or no, you can't. That's an interesting question. I can't say that I've ever heard that before. So there's nothing in any of registration that you would provide to our office that you would have to check a box that says, I have something on my record. So there's no prevention, as far as I can tell, from anyone registering a business. Do we have any other questions? I know I'm kind of scooting through this a little bit quickly.
I do have a question.
Sure.
I've never heard of this whole tribal thing for the state. And you said the purpose of that would be is if they're operating outside of the boundaries of Montana or the reservation.
So that would be outside the boundaries of the reservation, I believe. So I don't know all the ins and outs. You can probably school me when it comes to how businesses need to register with the tribe. But if the business is registered with the tribe, and let's say it's, I don't know, some sort of construction business, and you get jobs that are in places that are off the reservation, outside the jurisdictional boundaries of the tribe, then you would register that. You would still want to have it registered with the state of Montana, but you could select that it's subject to tribal regulations by making the state the tribal designation.
And how would that help that? I mean, what's the pros and cons of doing that for that construction business that you're in your example?
So again, if they're doing business anywhere in the state of Montana, number one, we're meeting that legal requirement that they need to have their business registered with our office. But the second one is also by locking down that name, not just having it registered with the tribe, but having it registered with the state of Montana, it makes sure that when you're traveling and doing business under that name, there's not someone else who can come in and purport themselves to be your business because they came in and registered that name, or they're just using the name even without registering it. Does that help that a little bit?
Yes, I think so, because with our Indian Equity Fund, we want them registered either with the state or with the tribe. If they do both, that's great, but we just require one, not, one or the other.
Okay. And like I said, it's more for, I guess, if you're doing business, again, within the boundaries of the state of Montana, I would think you would need to meet that legal requirement, registering your name, and then protecting that name, because nobody wants to set up shop, develop a customer base, and then find out that someone else has moved into town and is already using their business name. And we do occasionally, unfortunately, encounter those situations. Other questions on that? Let me jump back in. So again, we have all of these basic steps for how to register the business. One of the other questions that we get a lot of is, does my registration count as a business license? Or I need to get a business license. That's how they'll call our office. So the registrations that happen with the Secretary of State's office are not considered a business license. When I think of a business license, I think of the certificate that goes in the store window, right? That says you're allowed to be on this property and this is the business that you're operating and you're legitimate. Those kinds of business licenses are issued at the city or the county level. And interestingly enough, across Montana, it varies. Here in Helena, we do have a local city business license. Other places, smaller cities, they don't have anything, not at the city or the county level. So you really just always need to check in with your local officials to find out if that's a requirement for you. And then the other sort of big topic of conversation is what happens next? I've registered my business. Yay, I've been approved. What do I do now? How do I keep this going? So one of the things that we hear most often after someone registers is, how do I get my EIN? Are you going to send that to me? We don't. Employer identification numbers are federal tax ID numbers. They are only issued by the IRS. So the best way to apply for them is right through their website, and I've included the link right to that, so that if you do register a business, you can just click on that link and obtain an EIN, a tax ID number for your business. If you're intending to apply for contractor registration, workers' compensation, the independent contractor exemption certificate, ICEC, I hear those terms a lot. Those are all with the Department of Labor and Industry. I included their website and their phone number here as well. And then usually after your registration has been established with our office, you've set up a business, you'll get contacted by mail from the Department of Revenue, normally within a couple of months. Them sending you a little, I think they send you a letter with a verification code. You go onto the transaction portal and it allows you to set up a tax withholding account so that you can make estimated payments, and just so that they have some sort of anticipation for what sort of returns will be coming to them. And then I just put on some other sort of helpful resources that we found with people. The IRS website, lots of questions about EIN, so that's a great resource for everybody. The Department of Revenue and their transaction portal, the Department of Labor and Industry. One of the ones that I found really helpful is the Governor's Office of Economic Development, their business checklist. You basically put in the criteria of what it is you'll be doing with your business, and it spits out a list of state agencies that you might need to contact, of which the Secretary of State's office is one, to register your business name. So very handy tool there. And then of course our Business Help Center through the Secretary of State's office. So that is what I had for everybody. Do we have more questions, or is there something that I could explain a little bit better, something that you want to see again?
Yeah, I'll wait for some more questions. That was great though, because just like with the contractor exemption, that kind of thing, we had a whole webinar with Chris England, who explained, it's kind of better just to have it, if you go off of the reservation boundaries. Same thing kind of with the registration in your business, and especially for a duplicate business to come up too. So that sounded pretty good. And Yeah, I don't have any questions myself, but I see we still have some people in the room here and nothing in the chat right now. So I'll just leave it open for questions for a quick minute.
Yeah, I do. So we're over on the North Dakota border over here, and we have some vendors that go over to trade shows or some events in North Dakota. Would they need a certificate from the state of North Dakota to do business, or some of them go over there and I know they pay a fee to be part of a fair or whatever it is, food fair, craft fair. And that's about the extent of it. But as far as the state of Montana, you know, I guess, is there anything they need to fill out to do something like that? Cross state lines?
So I think we could be talking about a few different scenarios there. So when you talk about crossing state lines, normally if you are going to do business for any period of time in another state, or you're doing transactions of a repeated nature, that's something that's in the Montana law. Oops, excuse me, while I bounce the desk here a little. That's something that's in the Montana law, actually, where it talks about foreign business registrations. When a registration in Montana is not required, oddly enough, that's exactly what the statute says. It says when a registration is not required. And it talks about transactions that are of a singular nature that are completed within 30 days. So let's say you put windows in a house, right? And you're coming from North Dakota. You only have one job in Montana. You're going to go to a commercial building, put the windows in the building and leave, and you will be done in 2 weeks. You would probably not need to register your business with the Secretary of State's office in that case. It's one transaction, not of a repeated nature. So I would think that North Dakota probably has something very similar to that, where if these are repeated transactions, then yes, they might be looking for registration on their side. If they are, usually the state that you're going to requires a certificate of good standing from the state of Montana, something that says, I'm registered here with Montana, so it's okay for me to do business here in North Dakota as well. So we do have those certificates. There's something that you request through our website. It's a $5 fee, and you can just print one out or download it and send it to with your application to the neighboring state, wherever it is that you happen to be going.
Okay.
That was a great question, Mark. Oh, and just to confirm, Melissa, you said that this PowerPoint can be made available to possibly send to those who'd like to review it.
Yes, yep, I will send it to you just by email, and then I'll allow you to filter it out. And if you wouldn't mind sending me a copy of the reporting of our presentation, that would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, Maria put in the chat, just great job, Melissa. Great information.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing this. Any more questions, anybody? This is really informative.
No, it's a great resource. I work at the business incubator there, and so we have the SBDCs, you know, the SBA SBDCs with us, and just forming those partnerships is really a touchy situation when you're recommending what type. And so we refer them over to the local accountants, CPA firms, and so forth. Yeah, and that's all we can do is recommend it and not really tell them what type we think. So keep us out of it.
Right, right. I always say I am not an attorney. You do not want me to provide you with legal advice. I'm happy to help you with whichever registration you choose, but I will not tell you which one to pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but this service is, you know, pretty quick turnaround too for applying for it and receiving it, as well as their federal EIN. So it doesn't take very long either too, right? So
Right.
No, right now our standard processing time is about 5 or 6 business days. So we try to keep up with those filings. There are just hundreds that come in each day. It's pretty amazing. We had some numbers that we had pulled. There were 50,000, I think, new businesses that were registered over the course of, I think, the last year or the last 2 years, which is an amazing, astounding number when you think about it. And I know we get a lot of phone calls from people saying, I have an employee that is now working remotely out of Montana. How do I register? That's another frequent one. So people are moving here. They really like it, and we like being here.
Okay. Well, I think that covers everything. And yeah, thank you again, Melissa. Thanks for joining us.